What I would like to do now is introduce our president of our board of directors, who will introduce our guest speaker today, Steve Malota, Lake Forest Bank and Trust.
Thank you all for coming this afternoon, and it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Brian McCaskey. Brian is a vice president with the Chicago Bears Football Club, as you probably all know. He began his career with the Bears as a ball boy in 1974 while attending high school at Notre Dame College Prep. In 1982, Brian earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Education and Athletic Training from North Park University, where he also served as the head student trainer. He became assistant athletic trainer for the Bears that same year. Shortly thereafter, he founded McCaskey Sports Medicine Clinics of Chicago, where he led professionals helping patients with sports-related injuries for over 10 years. In 1993, Brian closed his practices to work full-time for the Bears and was named Player Liaison Operations Assistant. He was involved in various programs with a focus on financial education, degree completion, and family assistance. His knowledge of area businesses was instrumental in developing the Bears Career Internship Program, and in 2000, Brian took on the role of Director of Player and Staff Development. Brian has also been a co-director of the Bears training camp since 1999 and played a significant role in the successful transition of the team when it moved from Platteville to Olivet Nazarene University in Bourbonnais in 2002. Brian assumed the role of Senior Director of Business Development in 2001 for the Bears and serves as a member of the Board of Directors. He was the Chicago Bears Alumni Liaison and formed the Bears Alumni Relations Department for the Bears. In that role, he created a database of former players and has kept them informed on current team matters through alumni newsletters and strategic communications. In addition, he maintains and is expanding the Bears archives and memorabilia department to benefit players, their families, as well as their many fans. He was named vice president in 2016. Brian also currently serves as a member of the board of directors for the Pickens-Cain Pickens-Cain Moving and Storage Company, the Northern Illinois Food Bank, and Hearstrong Foundation. Over the years, Brian has taken fundraising and leadership roles for numerous local charities, including the Johnny Jenna Foundation, Midtown Education Foundation, North Park University's Outreach Ministry, and Notre Dame College Prep. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Brian, who lives in Lake Forest with his wife, Barb, son, Keegan, and daughter, Kelly. Brian McCaskey.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I started working with a speech coach this past year after many years of public speaking, and she said, or she came to a talk I gave, and afterwards, of course, car ride home, I said, what'd you think? And not only is she my speech coach, she's also a friend. And she said, well, you had a very dry beginning. You were sort of flat and boring in the middle, and you didn't have a clear ending. And I said, she goes, and I think she saw the look on my face, because I just kind of hung my head, and she also knows how much her hourly rate is. And she said, but it was good. It was good. We can work on that. So I'm here to share with you today several strategic things about the Bears that we do, and I hope I can give you some takeaway about some insight of what we do and how we do it and how we go about our business. I will have a no-nonsense stop, as my speech coach calls it. I have to get out of here at 1 o'clock and zoom to O'Hare to catch a 2:55 flight to Pennsylvania. So I'll talk for a bit, and then I'll do my favorite part, which is answer some questions that I hope you have. So let's get to it. When you talk about the Bears, I thought this is my second slide. Let's talk about George Halas. First and foremost, my grandfather, one of the founding fathers of the NFL. I put Canton, Ohio on there because that's where the Hall of Fame is. And the reason the Hall of Fame is in Canton, Ohio, is that's where the very first meeting occurred. It actually occurred in a Hupmobile showroom. There's nobody in this room old enough to know what a Hupmobile is, but it's a car with a running board. So they didn't have tables and chairs like we do in this meeting, so they sat on the running boards in this automobile showroom in Canton, Ohio, and they held this meeting. and they formed the National Football League. So he was a player and a coach at the same time. Now think about being 25 years old and saying, okay, let's start this National Football League. I'm going to start this team, and I'm going to play for the team. I'm going to coach the team. I'm going to own the team. He's going to do it all. He's an innovator. Many things that we take for granted now were his innovation, one being training camp. He invented training camp, which has been good for me. It's been a great gig. But he ran training camp. My father before me ran training camp, and now I have the privilege of running training camp. I'm going into my 20th year of running training camp. In the 40s, and this is where the Bears got big, they won 4 world championships. That's where they got the nickname Monsters of the Midway. Of course, beating the Redskins 73-0 is a feat that was unmatched. Being in archives, I found the telegram that was actually written by the owner of the Redskins, sent it to my grandfather a week before the game, and it's a little bit of trash talking. He said, I look forward to Sunday, and I look forward to beating your ears off. Quite the trash talking moment. I can imagine the awkward handshake after the game, you know, when they looked into each other's eyes after losing. The score actually could have been higher, but they started running out of footballs because they were kicking them into the stands for extra points. So they started running for the extra points rather than kicking for the extra points. So he spent a lifetime with the Bears. He died at age 88. So he spent 63 years with the team. A lot of people don't realize he took time away from the team, not once but twice, World War I, World War II, owned many businesses to keep the Bears going. He owned a laundry business. He owned a sporting goods business. He owned some real estate adventures. So out of all of it, 6 world championships. I always said that he had more world championships than anybody else. And I did some fact checking on that and actually found out he's tied with a guy named Curly Lambeau. Curly Lambeau and my grandfather were arch rivals, and that's why the Packers and the Bears are rivals. So I'll put this up there because in 1974, when the Bears, 74-75, the Bears first moved to Lake Forest, Lake Bluff. That was my introduction to the area, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what's fun for me in this photo is the next one. We were last year at a Monday night game, and I came down at halftime for a ring ceremony for some of our Hall of Famers, and somebody literally came up and bumped into me and caught me off guard. And it was this guy, my son, who's now wearing the X, as we call it. And it's just fun for me to see him carry on what I did and my love for the Bears. And I love his quote. He said, Dad, I get paid to watch football. And I said, yes, you do. I got paid $10 a day. You get paid $10 an hour. It's quite a disparity there. But I said, number one rule with me that I was given, I'm going to give to you, son. Do not get run over. So this is our mission statement. And we only just came up with this mission statement as we go into, I think, our 98th year. We wrote this in the past year. To be a championship football team while consistently delivering the highest level of entertainment to our fans and support to our community. I promise after today you'll realize that we support our community. It's questionable after coming off a 3-13 season if we were delivering the highest level of entertainment, but that's going to change, I promise. So how do you stay competitive? And this is where things are going to change. We changed our front office entirely 2 years ago. New general manager, new head coach, new coaching staff. Our measurement is wins and losses, and last year was not acceptable. 11 takeaways, tied for the all-time worst in season history. 3-13, that's the worst record we've had since they inaugurated a 16-game season. So obviously a lot of turnover this past year with the draft, with free agency, with bringing players in from other teams, and it's got a completely new roster. We've instituted a new culture, both inside the Bears and outside the Bears. Inside the Bears, we call it the Bears way. Outside the culture, it's when you come to Soldier Field, it's that touch point. It's the person that waits on you when you're buying a beer or a hot dog or a Coke. It's that person that's checking your ticket. It's when you're leaving the stadium, they literally say, thank you for coming. And I'm just still blown away by it. I'm going to talk a little bit about financial drivers and what makes our business go. Very important, we have 133 suites at Soldier Field, and they're not cheap. We hold about 6 back for team use. 5 or 6 every year come up for renewal. We have more than that right now, and the reason for that is quite simple. One, having some losing seasons year after year does not help. 2, you have the success of the Cubs and the Blackhawks. So if you own a business and you say, well, I can have 8 or 10 games with the Bears, or I can have a lot more games with hockey or a lot more games with baseball, follow the money. So that's the challenge we're up against. TV and radio, we're very competitive. And in fact, I have a picture here. We're the first NFL team to put a television studio, a full working television studio, right in our building. Now other teams are coming to visit us to see how we did it, and they're following suit. We also have our own radio station studio space within the building as well. Merchandise, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in detail, and then some sponsorship as well. So there's our, what we call Hall of Fame sponsors. So this is a $1 million plus category. PNC has naming rights both at Hallis Hall and down at Soldier Field. United as well. Miller's been a longtime partner. Of course, these other partners have been terrific as well. These are what we call official partners. It's a lower level, not quite the financial commitment, but you'll see obviously some companies you'll recognize. Again, some of our favorites. And then people that we call proud partners, again, names that you'll recognize, but they're maybe at a slightly lower tier. Olivet Nazarene University is where our training camp is, and last year they asked me to film a commercial, which was kind of odd, different for me, to have a makeup artist and have someone working on your hair and getting the lighting right and all that goes with it. And it was a lot of fun. They also filmed a commercial with some guy named Ben Zobrist of the Cubs. And guess what? I think his commercials played a lot more than my commercial. I'm okay with that. I'm a Cub fan. So in archives and business development area that I helped grow and develop, these are older logos from the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. And what's fun to do is bring them back and put them on modern day products. And these are the most popular products in our lineup. And we have a lot of fun with them, and they're very popular. We call this our traditions line. And just to show you what's old is new and what's new is old, my grandfather back in the 60s, he retired from coaching in 68, and of course Coach Fox. But what really the transition in between that made that hat the #1 selling hat, and you wouldn't never realize how many Bears hats there are until you walk into a store that just sells Bears hats. There's dozens, but this hat, we call it the B hat, is the #1 seller. It outsells all the other hats combined. A couple notes about our fan base. It's the 6th largest in all of pro sports in the U.S., 3rd in the NFL. We're up against New York. They have 2 teams. And now, good for the league, not good for us, we're up against L.A. because they have the 2nd largest market. 9.2 nationwide. I was just down at LSU with my son for freshman orientation, and a vice president came up to me and said, we have students from 49 of the 50 states. And I said, which one are you missing? He said, North Dakota. And he said, if you are ever there and you can help us out, I'd appreciate it. But I can't imagine the season ticket holder that's in Hawaii is going to come in for a Bears game, but I think they do. 184 countries. That's pretty amazing as well. Community relations is a big part of the Bears and who we are, and as I said, it's in our mission statement. Bears Care, our charitable philanthropic effort that we started about 10, 11 years ago, has 2 main purposes. It's fundraising and then grant making. So if you have a worthy charity, anybody in the room working with a charity, Monica, with the food bank, you can make a grant proposal to the Bears and they'll look at it and say yay or nay. But we're targeting programs in education, youth, athletics, and health. And, targeting programs in education, youth, athletics, and health. I threw an extra comma in there. That's a picture of Danica Patrick. Why is that there? Well, one, she's really cute. She's a Bears fan, I found out. I've gotten to know her a little bit and actually got on a first-name basis with her. So we started a program where we would produce a Bears T-shirt. So I sent it to her and I said, would you wear this T-shirt and put it out on Twitter? And this is where I saw the power of social media. She did that. She posted a picture of herself wearing this Bears T-shirt, and it sold like 1,000 shirts in 12 minutes. That raised an awful lot of money. And off these T-shirts, over the past 10 years, we've raised over $2 million, which we've been able to put back into the community directly to people, not for research. It directly benefits women that have suffered from breast cancer and or ovarian cancer as well. So education, we're going after literacy. We're getting players out in the community to read to kids and promote reading. I know Bernie's Book Bank close by, of course, is a big part of that as well. And we're also talking about character development. We take quality players that can get up in front of a group of kids and do a great job and show them what it means to be a Bear, what it means to be a part of a team, what it means to be a person of good character and high integrity. Military, I know there's some military people here today. We're very proud of our military relationships. Of course, being number one, being in Soldier Field. We send out care packages. We do a military salute. That falls at the most. Has anybody ever seen us? Who's been to Soldier Field? Quite a few of you. Very good. So maybe you've seen the first, what we call natural break in the third quarter. We'll bring a military person out and their family out of the tunnel. And it's very moving. And to see 60,000 plus people give them a standing ovation, it's really terrific. We also have a ticket donation program where our players and staff, if they're not using their tickets, and our fans, they can turn these tickets back in and they'll be donated to military families. We also work closely with the USO of Illinois, and they're the ones that actually help us select that military person that gets recognized. And of course, we're also involved in the Chicago area VA hospitals, including close by here in North Chicago. So this is a picture of some guys that are deployed, showing their Bears spirit, a flag that we sent them. Health and Wellness Play 60 initiative, which is an NFL initiative, and we're just trying to get kids to move for 60 minutes a day. So many kids do not. And we can talk about childhood obesity and proper diet and what it means to move and to get out and get away from the screens, get away from the phones, get away from the iPads. We also do hospital visits for kids, the different children's hospitals. Have players and some of our ownership, some of our coaches are visiting and they bring gifts. Youth and high school football, we work with the Park District and we're working with at-risk kids in the inner city. Flag football program, again, not everybody's cut out to play tackle football, but we want people to be engaged with the game of football. We got to watch out for our NASCAR friends because they're up and coming. We got to watch out for soccer. We also have a Coach of the Week program. That's a high school coach. And then we also recognize an All-Star of the Week from the high school ranks as well. This is one of my favorite pictures, Leonard Floyd with a young man at Soldier Field standing for the national anthem. Always like to see that. Player engagement. This was something when I first moved out of the training room, we called it player development back then. But these are the four main areas: financial education, degree completion, family assistance, career internship. Financial education, these are young men that have an awful lot of money at a young age. Not everyone has millions and millions of dollars at that age, but they certainly have the opportunity to work their way up to that. Degree completion, most players in major sports go to school on a scholarship, but they don't get their degree. We try to get them back into school, and I throw the guilt trip on them. I say, make that promise to your mom. Complete that promise. And family assistance, we have new players coming and going. They're coming into our community, helping them find a place to live, movers, doctors, maybe their kids have special needs, and of course career internship. Football life is on average 3.5 years. No players coming in see it that way, but that's the reality of it. Some less, some more, but it's 3.5. So you got to get ready for life after football. And the players that I've seen that have been the most successful, and I always use this gentleman as an example, Brian Bashnagel was a wonderful player for us for 10 years. Played for Woody Hayes. I remember I had him come out and talk to our rookies. And he said, look, guys, I played for Woody Hayes at Ohio. I was a Rhodes Scholar candidate. I played for Mike Ditka. I was on a Super Bowl team. And now I sell toilet paper. And the players were like, wow, what's that about? He goes, but I'm very good at selling toilet paper. And he has been very good for many, many years, 30-plus years. And again, he started working for North American Paper Company. Of course, they sell napkins and paper cups and of course, toilet paper. But he started working on his career for life after football. He started working on it while he was a football player, and the results are very, very good. Bill Poppy from DePaul was my guy for teaching the financial education piece, and the one takeaway, actually two takeaways, he said, leave castles for kings. Don't buy your mom a house. Maybe you promised you'd buy her a house. You can buy her a house and let her live in it, but don't buy her the house. And his reasoning for that was, when your mom leaves this earth and goes to heaven, she's going to leave that house to your goofy brother who didn't work as hard as you. How do you feel about that? He also said something else, that you're very lucky, and there's nothing wrong with being lucky. Take good care of the luck. And I always thought that was spot on, spot on. You know, I tell players, you know, I was born into a football family, very lucky. Nothing wrong with that. I make no apologies. I'm from a very big family. Some have done well with the luck, and some not so well. They've struggled, unfortunately. But that's the way it is in any large family and in any large family business. And I know some of you are in family businesses as well. And maybe your son or daughter or your brother or your sister's not cut out to be that person in charge or in charge of A or B or C. But the important thing is to figure that out. It's one of my favorite quotes by my grandfather. In fact, I fought for it to, we redid Hallis Hall about, 4 years ago now. And the designers wanted to put this artsy X's and O, up on the wall about the size of that big wall in the back of the room. And I was like, no, it's Hallis Hall. It needs to be Hallis. It needs to be tough. And I fought for and got this quote in steel letters on a black background and won the fight. So I'm proud of that. I see that every day when I walk in. And I think this is the essence of who he is. He's noted for several quotes, but this is one of our favorites. This is our go-to quote the most often. And lastly, and this is, I put this up, this is my family, and when I first fell in love with Lake Bluff, Lake Forest, in the mid-'70s when the Bears moved here. And I said, someday, some way, I would love to live here. I'd love to move here, live here. I've worked here for 36 years. It took me 35 years from the age I was 15. I moved here when I was 50. I'm now 57. But I say to my wife all the time after we've had a great dinner locally or golfed or enjoyed the lakefront, I always say, did I tell you I love living here? And I really do. And she goes, yeah, you've told me that, but it's great to hear. But my son just graduated Lake Forest High School. My daughter is graduating tomorrow night from Lake Bluff Middle School, and we'll be going to Lake Forest High School. And we're very, very, very proud and excited to be a part of the community. And with that, I'm going to sign off and say thank you and open it up to questions. And I'm going to watch our time. We're in good shape here. So if you're brave enough to ask the question, I'll be brave enough, even though there's a camera in the room and a guy typing furiously away over here. I'm guessing he's a reporter. Be happy to answer your questions. Yes, sir.
Brian, I've lived here a long time, and I've always been a Bears fan, moved here from New York. So the question I have for you is, when you bring rookies onto the team, they come from all different places. How do you get them to gel with the guys that have been here a while? What are the things that you intentionally do as a team to make them part of the team?
That's a good question. I dubbed the term Limo Tuesday because it seems Tuesday is our player day off during the regular season, but there's always 2 or 3 limos parked in the courtyard in front of Hallis Hall, and that means they're bringing in new people, that they're constantly we had so many transactions in the last couple of years, and I think it is a challenge to get these guys to gel, and I think we need to like settle down and go, okay, these are our 53 guys, and let's go with it. And I think we're almost to that point. But if you're splitting hairs and everybody's graded, you know, green, yellow, red. And when Ryan Pace came to our team, he goes, you got a lot of yellow and a lot of red. We need to get more green. So if you have a guy that's maybe a yellow and another guy pops up from another team, the fun thing about the NFL is every team carries 8 extra players on what they call the developmental squad. Now, we have tape on all those guys, and they have tape on our guys, and we might say, you know what, I like Mr. Clark over there. I need a tight end. I'm going to grab Mr. Clark, you're my new tight end. But the key with that is you have to put him on the active roster. So his salary goes from here to here. So again, I think that's been one of our problems in the last couple of years is it's been a revolving door. It's been a lot of turnover on the roster. I think this is the year that we'll kind of settle in and settle down and maybe not see so many limos on Tuesday. Mr. Clark.
Brian, I have a leadership question for you. I mean, a lot of people are facing adversity, challenges today, and it's courage. I mean, you know, you got 3 and 13, you're concerned about that. What would you give people from advice just facing challenges and overcome, face that and keep moving forward? What's the leadership challenge?
I say this because there's so many different pieces to the Bears. I mean, you hear about the general manager and you hear about the coaches and you hear about the players. There are so many other pieces to the Bears. There's the chefs and the dietitians and the athletic trainers and the equipment people and the grounds crew and the video department and the accounting department and the marketing department and the sales department. So yeah, how do you get, they didn't work any less hard. They didn't drop a pass that would have won the game. They didn't take a sack. They worked just as hard. So what we did this past spring after the draft, Ryan Pace came in and met with 40 of us that are all in leadership positions. And he told the story of why he drafted Mitch Trubisky. And it was fascinating because he actually wrote an email to himself the night before. And it was like, dear Ryan, you know, tomorrow's the day. No, I'm making that part up. But he did write an email to himself. And he said, go for it. Go with it with conviction. And he shared that with us. And it was such a personal thing. And as he shared it, he actually got choked up. And it was a pretty cool moment. Pretty cool moment. And I went up to him later and I said, that's what we needed to hear. That's what these sales guys and gals and these marketing people needed to hear, that we're on the right track, we're on the right path. And thank you for sharing that, because he really put himself out there in more than just the public way. He put himself out there privately with us. Yes, sir.
I've got a question about your training facility. You're quite a ways south. You're down out in Answer Range. Is that correct? Have you ever thought about moving further north?
I got to tell you, we were in Platteville for 18 years. I met my wife in Platteville. So when I came home and with the happy news that we were moving training camp, that went over like a lead balloon at that dinner conversation. My kids grew up there, and it was tough because you form allegiances and friendships and fans. Platteville's unique. It's in the southwest corner of Wisconsin, and it pulls from what they call the tri-state area: Illinois, Iowa, of course, Wisconsin. And I met a young lady yesterday who's now a mom and had a 18-year-old daughter with her, and she said, you know, I have so many family members that are there that are now Bear fans, and of course I'm a Bear fan because even though I went to school in Wisconsin, I'm a Bear fan, and I hear that time and time again. Bourbonnais is 90 miles from here, door to door. I've made the trip more than anybody else in the room, I promise you. It was clearly, out of the 15 sites we looked at, the place for us to go, and we feel real good about being there. It's a touch point for our fans. So in Platteville, we might draw 1,200, 1,500, 1,800, 2,000 fans when we were really good in the 80s. At Bourbonnais, we'll draw 6, 8, 10, 12,000. And it's a very unique experience. If you've never, anybody here ever been to Platteville for training camp? You have. You have. Anybody here been to Bourbonnais? Okay. So you know it's two completely different experiences. One is highway and one is all country roads, zigzagging back and forth. But it's, you know, out of 32 teams, I think there's only 12 left that actually go away to training camp. So we feel it's unique. It's a touch point for our fans. It's a way to engage because not everybody can afford season tickets or PSLs or certainly suites. If you can afford a suite, I'd be happy to stay and maybe miss my plane and talk to you. But, or at least exchange phone numbers, and I can talk to you while I'm flying to the airport to fly out of town. But it's, you know, Hallis Hall is not big enough to hold training camp. We could do it if we want the privacy, and you know, we're at the end of Field Drive for a reason, and we have a lot of privacy back there. But we still want that touch point with our fans wherever we are. Why did my grandfather move the team? Actually, Jim Finks moved the team. And Jim Finks is in the Hall of Fame as a general manager because he was a Hall of Fame general manager. In addition to the drafts, he went to Rensselaer, Indiana. And Rensselaer, Indiana was it was a very tough place to have training camp, and that's why we were there for 30 years, because the idea was go away, get away from distractions, get away from the fans, get away from families. We won the World Championship in '63. Tragically, in '64, we had 2 players actually died in a car accident at training camp. And from then on, there was just this black cloud over Rensselaer and St. Joseph's College. And Jim Finks came in and he said, well, no wonder we're losing. You know, this is depressing. And he didn't want to drive to Rensselaer, Indiana. So he lived in the North Shore. So that's how we found Lake Forest, because we knew that the Chicago Cardinals at one time had been at Lake Forest College, and then we followed suit in the mid-'70s. And then 10 years later, Coach Ditka's wisdom, he decided, hey, let's break away and just get to Platteville, and that's where we settled in for 18 years, and it was great for team building purposes. And then we agreed to bring it back to Illinois. So we had some Illinois politicians who were saying it'd be great if you brought it back to Illinois, and that's why we moved. Yes, sir.
Now, Brian, I have a question, I have a comment, that I became a season ticket holder the first year they were sold.
God bless you. 1971. What's your question? Or, okay, I like your comment. Thank you. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Cars and Stars was born out of an idea I had 25 years ago, and the good folks at the Northern Illinois Food Bank approached me 5 years ago and said, we want to partner with you on something. And I said, well, I got this idea. I love cars, and athletes are, people kind of gravitate to that, and let's combine both of them for a good cause. And that's what we've done, and every year it's grown, and we found a home with Foley Motors and Steve Foley Motors, and it's really taken off and taken on a life of its own, and it's a great night. I mean, everybody here loves good food. Everybody likes to mingle with athletes that are friendly and warm and engaging. That's the only type we invite, by the way. Always some basketball players too. This year we hope to get some hockey players. But it's been a wonderful event, and we hope you'll check us out online. I always backwards it. It's Stars and Cars, and it's with the Northern Illinois Food Bank, and we hope that you'll be able to join us or give some consideration to possibly being a sponsor. So just a thought for the day. Pasquasian Shepherd, another shameless plug. Well, this person is going to be happy that their life's work is with the First Presbyterian Church of Lake Forest, Mr. John Johnson.
That's unbelievable.
Thank you. Put that back in there. All right. I'll finish on a high note with giving away something. I really appreciate your support of the Chamber. I appreciate your support of the Chicago Bears. And thanks for listening to me today. I'm from a family of 11 children, and I don't get to do this very often. So I thank you for that. Thank you.